Hello everybody, welcome. So today's video is all about answering your questions. I put a post up on my community page here on YouTube and I got hundreds of questions, all magnificent questions, and I picked a handful of them. So I want to preface before I begin that I will be connecting into the Galactic Federation of Light. They're already with me right now in the space, and they will be assisting me in answering these questions. Okay, so I'll be tapping into their energy and allowing them to provide me with the information, then I'll share it with you. So the very first question that I want to answer, that not only came from many of you, but also came from my guides this morning, is this question around contact with these higher dimensional beings. Are they assisting us right now? Will we be seeing them? Will we be connecting with them? Is there going to be a false flag of alien beings coming in that isn't really them? So this whole idea around contact and these beautiful higher dimensional light beings. So the first thing I want to remind you is they're with us right now, right? They're in a different dimensional field, so you can't necessarily see them, but they are here with us. And they are holding this entire shift, the shift from lower frequencies to higher frequencies, density into light, right? They're holding this in a huge amount of light right now. We are literally encased in a massive amount of light. And the human has free will, so they don't interfere in the different pathways or timelines that the human can choose to play out this physical shift in consciousness. What they are making sure of is that the earth plane doesn't get physically destroyed, and that which the human is creating right now, vaccines, 5G, manipulating the weather, all of these things that the human is playing in, they are making sure that it doesn't hit the extreme magnitude of damage that it can hit. So they're balancing between allowing the human to have free will, okay, but also making sure that it doesn't create a massive amount of chaos and destruction, which it could do. So the reason I share this with you first is because everything that you are seeing unraveling out there, the vaccines, 5G towers, weather manipulation, so many things, okay? And you're going to continue to see these things unravel. They are not as damaging as the narrative that the human is playing with. Meaning there are narratives within the vaccine community, there are narratives within the 5G community, there's narratives within all these communities that are telling us how horrific, how bad, right? Chemtrails are the same thing, right? There's all these really dark fear-based narratives, which they are true. However, they're not as bad as what the human is believing them to be, because these higher dimensional beings, believe it or not, are actually keeping it at a level that won't destroy the human collective. Okay, they're actually energetically kind of subduing these potentially dangerous creations by the human. And you don't have to believe this, or you can believe it, right? But this is what's happening. And so when you see chemtrails in the sky, the Galactic Federation of Light has told me over and over and over again, don't worry about it, we're clearing it. The 5G towers, don't worry about it, we're clearing it. So sure, there may be some radiation, there may be some activation that comes from those 5G towers, but they're not anywhere near the narrative that the human is believing in. Vaccines are the same thing, right? There's a massive fear paradigm around the vaccines, and it makes sense. But what the Galactic Federation of Light has said is that they are literally energetically reducing that impact, okay? So again, this is an energetic sort of war, so to speak, right? And these higher dimensional beings, these galactic beings, these light beings, are assisting us right now as we physically on the earth plane in a human body clear this dense consciousness, because there's only so much that we can do in the physical body. We need assistance We need assistance from higher dimensional beings. So they are doing a massive amount of work, whether you see it or not. And the reason they want me to share this message with you is, can you start to hold the notion, idea, or belief that these massively powerful, dense, fear-based paradigms around 5G, around vaccines, around the weather that is being created by humans, all these things that are going to continue to unravel, okay? The chemtrails, etc., etc., etc. Can you start to realize that, believe it or not, there may be higher dimensional beings that are actually participating in lessening or reducing the magnitude of that impact on the human? That's the first thing. The second thing is that as we continue to move through this physical shift in consciousness and continue to hold ourselves in higher states of consciousness, we will begin to see them more and more and more. And we will begin to interact and engage with them more and more and more. It's going to happen. It's an absolute. It's just a matter of when. Because we are in a time-space continuum where things happen much slower than we would like. And these beings cannot tell us exact times and days because we have free will. And it would be a disservice if they were like, oh, this is the exact day it's going to happen. They don't know, right? They cannot predict the future. They see multiple timelines that the human is walking down, that the human collective is walking down, okay? And they don't know which timeline we're going to choose. But they do know that regardless of which timeline, there will come a now moment where we will start to physically engage with these beings. Okay, so just know that. And please remember that no matter what kind of chaos that we see out there, I can promise you that there is so much work being done from the higher dimensional realms to negate the impact and intensity of what is being created out there. Promise you. So choose to start perhaps holding that a little bit. It's your choice, right? We have free will and we have choice in what we want to believe in and the reality that we want to believe in. Okay? But they're here. They're here in the thousands. And they're all around the earth plane, holding us and the earth plane in so much light, making sure that we move through this as easily and gracefully as possible. I promise you. Okay? Okay, next question. Let's see. What things are coming up that we need to prepare for? So, the best way to prepare is to be as present as possible in the now moment. The now moment is preparation. Okay, so again, there are many different timelines that the human can play out right now. And depending upon how quickly the human body is able to continue to hold higher frequencies, meaning the star seeds, the light workers, the way showers, depending upon how fast the human body is able to hold the higher frequencies, ground the higher frequencies in, and be in the higher states of consciousness will dictate the timeline that the human collective moves through. So if we can continue to be in these higher states of consciousness, we can shift the density a little bit faster or alchemize it, break it apart, right? And so there are timelines that the human is listening to that is like a doomsday timeline, right? These really horrific things that are going to happen. Make sure that you have preparation for food and preparation for water, because all of a sudden you're not going to have water, you're not going to have food. There's going to be some solar flare that's going to destroy aspects of the earth plane, right? These are all timelines, but the probability of those really, really doomsday dark timelines playing out is slim to none. It's still a timeline and it's going to be talked about, okay? The reason it is being talked about is because fear is the consciousness that the human collective is clearing, okay? And so the human is going to pay attention to and grab onto the fear-based paradigms or the fear-based timelines. But it is a very small percentage. It's very small that those timelines are actually going to play out. Why? Because you, as the human, and the massive amount of humans that are waking up right now are continuing to hold higher states of consciousness over and over and over and over, which is shifting the entire human collective. So the timeline that the human is starting to move into is in a higher frequency. So those doomsday timelines are dissolving. The human needs to pay attention to what timeline they are focused on, because your role as a higher state of consciousness being, a being that is being in higher states of consciousness, is to choose the timeline that holds higher states of consciousness, right? And so the doomsday type of, oh my God, prepare that there's not going to be food, prepare that there's not going to be water, prepare that there's going to be all this devastation. Again, we are dismantling or alchemizing that probability. So we may see sprinkles of it coming about. We may see destruction and fires and earthquakes and bombs and things like that, but it is a small percentage that we're actually seeing being played out because we are holding higher states of consciousness. I hope this makes sense. So our role is to recognize what timeline we are participating in. There's nothing wrong, they're saying, with preparing for some sort of doomsday. Okay, go ahead and do that, but the probability of it happening is slim to none. Okay, slim to none. These solar flares that the humans are talking about and getting consumed by, again, it was and is a probability that a few months ago was a very large probability. A solar flare that was going to impact the human on an energetic level so intensely that it would create a massive sort of jolt in the human body, a massive jolt in the physical earth plane, kind of like a chaotic kick in the ass, where all of a sudden it would be like almost like psychotic breaks or massive physical destruction. Because we have been able to do so much high frequency work on the earth plane in the last couple of months, that solar flare timeline isn't going to play out the way people are believing it to play out. Is going to be more subtle. Okay, it's going to be a subtle, it's already happening, they're saying. So it's not a now moment event. They're saying that it's already happening. These massive portals that you are experiencing yourself in, where your body is being pummeled with this high frequency light, that is a part of the solar flash or the solar flare. Okay, so they want you to understand that any storyline that you want to believe about this is okay. They don't care which one you believe in, but just pay attention to which one you're believing in. Okay, and start to understand energy and frequency, and that everything is always shifting and changing into new timelines that are holding higher frequencies. And timelines that hold higher frequencies don't have fear and doom and gloom. They just don't, right? And so you'll watch these storylines or these timelines start to change in front of your eyes, right? You'll just start to watch, oh my God, that never happened. Oh my God, that never happened. Oh my God, that never happened, right? But it was a massive story that was being circulated among the human population. So the solar flare was an opportunity and a timeline, and it is still occurring, but it is subdued, or the intensity of its opportunity has been dissolved a little bit. So what you're experiencing now and what you will continue to experience is a constant solar flare that is pummeling or moving down onto the earth plane in the human body right now as we speak. It's this constant influx of high frequency light. Okay, and so there will not be a boom one moment. So in terms of preparation, the way you want to prepare is to prepare in the now, by being in higher states of consciousness as often as you can in the now. Staying present in your now. There is no need to start to prepare for something that hasn't arrived, because we don't know and you don't know what's to be. Nobody can predict what is to come. It's impossible right now because you guys are shifting in high frequency so fast. If only you could see how quickly you are shifting in your frequency. The human collective and the earth plane. You're jumping timelines faster than we've ever seen, faster than the human collective has ever done. So to predict the timeline and to prepare for it is a waste of energy and time. And we want to go back to the solar flare one more time because many of you are confused about this. The solar flare was at one past, previous, now moment an actual boom event. Boom. And what has happened now is it is spread out among many now moments in order to allow the massive activation that it was going to do to not be as potent or as destructive to the physical body and destructive to the human to the earth plane's body. Okay, so it's not going to be as destructive, and it is not going to be a now moment. It is happening now, in every now, throughout the nows. Okay, and it is assisting you and the earth plane to shift into higher states of consciousness, to dissolve the dark energies or the lower frequency energies that you're watching in your external. Okay, this is part of the process of the human collective moving into higher states of consciousness. So that's what's happening. Okay. All right. All of you are, this was the most popular question, or the one that got the most likes. Do you ever go through a phase of boredom? I am bored for many years after my awakening. The old ego self is gone, and now I cannot find much motivation. I feel peace and presence, but boredom. Will there ever be some motivation again? And how can one feel motivation when there is no ego who wants things? Okay, this is a process. This is a stage, so to speak, of the ascension journey or the ascension process, which is when your physical body is moving from lower states of consciousness to higher states of consciousness. And what starts to happen is there's a slowing down process. The human starts to slow down. They start to get more quiet. They start to get more present. They start to have less needs, desires, and wants. The things that used to entertain them no longer resonate with their being. And so there is a feeling of boredom because you are living in two distinct realities. A third dimensional reality, which is all about action and stimulation and external desires and wants and cravings and needs. And a fifth dimensional reality, which is about going inward, being in peace, being in presence, being in flow, being with your energetic frequency, and finding everything within the now moment inside physicality or inside your physical body. Very different ways of being. And so as the human body starts to move deeper into these 5D consciousnesses, and as your physical body starts to hold these 5D consciousnesses, you as the ego personality human is going to say, this is boring. I'm bored. I have no motivation. I have no desire to do things. I have no craving. I have no desire to hang out with people, right? That's just the process of familiarizing yourself and getting familiar with 5D consciousness. And not everyone is going to feel this, okay? But many of you will. And they're also saying that part of the purpose of this physical activation, COVID-19, which was a physical activation for many of you, it's allowing the human, or it catapulted the human into this 5D state faster. And so many of you, not this individual that asked the question, but many of you are going to start to feel this sort of boredom-like feeling. You will get used to it, and it will feel less boredom or lack of motivation the more you start to settle into the frequency of being present, the frequency of being in breath and in now, and recognizing that there are two realities that you're standing in. And if there wasn't a third dimensional reality, you wouldn't realize that you were bored because you wouldn't feel the difference between being active and motivated and not. There's duality. And when there's a duality state, then you get to feel the differences. Oh, I'm no longer motivated. I'm no longer I'm now bored, right? That's because you're still in a third dimensional field. So you're still feeling the opposite of what you're feeling now. And so we judge it and label it. So just keep going. Settle into it more and more. It will eventually shift into a different state of being. The boredom, the no motivation will eventually shift into more of a presence, a peace, a calm, a knowingness, a flow. And you're probably already feeling that, but you're also feeling a boredom because you're still in a third dimensional field as well. And so boredom is going to come out based on the fact that you're still standing in a third dimensional field. Okay. All right, so let's see. Let's go to the next questions. By the way, I have things in my ears right now to stop the noise that I'm hearing outside. Okay. I am in severe lockdown in Melbourne, Australia, basically on house arrest. There is a lot of suffering around. My question is, what basic advice would you give to help navigate this current 3D experience in my environment? So, many of us are going to continue to feel as if it's getting worse, okay? That there are going to be mandated vaccines, that there are going to be people that are going to come to your house, knock on your door, and force the vaccines in your body. Here's what the Galactic Federation of Light wants to remind you, okay? There's no escaping what you're going through in this human journey. There's no escaping what you're going through in this now. Unfortunately or fortunately, many humans have to go through this. Here's what they want you to understand as you are going through this. 2 things. 1, many of the storylines that you're being told, including the mandated vaccine that has not necessarily been presented in front of you right now. There's talk around it, right? There is this idea around it. There is this, it's absolute, it's going to happen. But they want you to understand that until it is in your now moment, do your best to try not to focus on that reality. Because there is a timeline, they're saying, where the mandated vaccine there's a couple things they're saying. The mandated vaccine for many, many human collectives and countries, the mandated vaccine will not play out. Meaning the word mandated is being focused on. So what they're saying is that there will be many countries that state that there's going to be a mandated vaccine. But what that really means, they're saying, is that if you want to do certain things, you will have to have a vaccine. But the entire population is not going to be forced into a vaccine. But when they use mandated, they are creating a huge amount of fear in the human population. And that fear is perpetuating the fear that you're here to alchemize. When you are in an experience of house arrest, okay, when you use the word house arrest, there's a huge amount of fear around it. And so what they're trying to get across to all of us is watch the narratives, the storylines, and the words that are being given to us right now. And how are we digesting them, and how does it make us feel? This is going to pass. So the timeline that there are mandated vaccines, they have said this to me over and over and over again, and I will state this. at least in the United States, there will not be a mandated vaccine, meaning that every single human in the United States has to have a vaccine. What is most likely going to happen, they have said, and again, it's up to us because there's free will, but you will be mandated to have a vaccine if you want to do this, if you want to do this, if you want to do this. Okay? And until it is presented and right in front of your face where you have to make that choice, choose to perhaps not focus on the fear narrative around the mandated vaccine. Think of that word. Think of the energy around it and behind it. And if you continue to hold yourself in higher states of consciousness as often as you can, all of you will shift that timeline. You're that powerful. You will all shift the timeline of a mandated vaccine. It's an energy. It's an energy. And one of the inevitable pieces to the COVID-19 physical shift that sort of was the domino effect is this vaccine storyline. Okay? And not to get into too much of this, but what is important to understand is that when you start to understand how powerful you are as an energetic being, believe it or not, you have the ability to not be impacted by a vaccine. This is something that is beyond challenging for the human to understand. But if you recognize that you're light, and you recognize that you're a high frequency light, and that light can combat any sort of denser energy, you understand that you're safe. Not easy, and not a message that they send knowing that it's going to be digested by the human. Okay? But this is where we're going. This notion and remembrance that we're actually light beings. And if you know that you're a light being, and you know that you are sovereign, and that you know that you have the ability to not be impacted by anything in the external, you'll actually be okay whether you have a vaccine in your body or not, if you understand who you are. Again, this is not easy to hold, and a majority of the humans will not be able to hold this right now. But this is one of the things that we will start to step into as we continue to hold higher states of consciousness. We will absolutely start to hold this remembrance and knowingness. Because you're not going to be able to get away from the vaccine storyline right now. Many of the humans will be vaccinated if the human wants to do certain things. But start to step away from the word mandated. Start to step away from that word, okay? Start to step away from the word of house arrest. These words that are inundated with fear. Inundated with fear, okay? I'm not saying don't look at what's happening and don't accept what's happening. Absolutely. You are where you are. We are where we are. We are experiencing it. But we have a choice as to how we're going to experience it. Okay? And we are in the crux of a massive, massive shift. And so it's going to look worse than it actually is. It's going to look worse than it actually is. Okay? So pay attention to that. The way you can navigate this, because I don't even know if I described this, I went right into the vaccines, but the way you can navigate this is to remember what is going on, and that this is literally just a phase. This is just a now moment that we are moving through. We're moving through this. We have to go through this. We can't not go through this. But how deeply can you begin to look at these narratives, the words that we are being asked to hold and digest, the words that social media and the news and everybody that may be in these higher positions are telling you to hold and believe? What are the words they are using? Listen to the words and then choose. Because what's happening is it's getting scarier and scarier for the human to try to hold what's coming. Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? And the more you are in a present moment state, the more uncomfortable that can feel, because you don't know which direction it's going. And what we can tell you is it's going to the light. It's going to more freedom and expansion and love and joy, even when you are in house arrest and there is this storyline of a mandated vaccine. There are many humans that are going to play out that storyline for the sole purpose of the shift in consciousness. There are so many players in this unraveling and in this shift. So many players all around the world. Human or higher dimensional consciousnesses in human body that are going to either be a part of the shift, meaning I'm going to hold higher states of consciousness, I'm going to move through this physical shift, or humans that are saying I'm going to play a part in the dark consciousness that's shifting. I'm going to be in that dark consciousness. I'm going to get sick from a vaccine. I'm going to get taken to jail or imprisoned for standing up for my rights, whatever that is, right? From a higher perspective, that's a higher dimensional consciousness in the human body choosing that experience for the sole purpose of the human evolution and consciousness. Again, not easy. I'm not asking you to hold this. I'm just sharing what's coming through, and it's always a higher perspective. So there are many players playing out this shift in consciousness for all of us, and it's not easy. Okay, next question. I've been pondering false prophets and false light beings lately in this 3D concept. I'm curious, what do your guides have to say about this? Okay, so false prophets or false light beings. The first thing they're saying is there's no such thing as a false light being. It is a higher dimensional consciousness that is playing in denser consciousnesses. Meaning for the sole purpose of manipulation and feeding off of fear. So there are beings that are in human forms that are manipulating energy and light in order to perpetuate and continue to increase, as much as they're trying to, they aren't, but they're trying to increase that density or that dark energy that we're clearing. Fear, manipulation, control. So what's happening is, it's not false light beings and it's not false prophets. It's consciousnesses, higher dimensional consciousnesses, whether it's reptilians, whether it's dark beings. They're typically in a fourth dimensional field or a fourth dimensional frequency, okay? Not the same type of fourth dimensional frequency that we're used to, that we're experiencing, an actual fourth dimensional field, so you can't see them. And they're inside human body, just like we're higher dimensional consciousness inside human body. And they are trying their best to manipulate and continue to hold these dark consciousnesses or dark experiences that we are clearing. And they're going to get louder. They're going to get louder. So we're going to see them all of a sudden more and more. We're going to hear them more and more. They're going to start to come out of the woodwork. Oh my God, where did that come from? Oh my God, where did that come from? I've never heard that person speak like that. I've never seen that from that person, right? All these things we're going to start to see. And what you want to pay attention to is, how is it making you feel, right? So when it's a darker consciousness or a lower dimensional consciousness or a fourth dimensional being playing in a lower dimensional consciousness, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel gross or icky. It's going to feel dark. It's going to feel unsafe. It's going to have a whole ton of fear. It's going to make you feel like you need to listen to them. It's going to make you feel like they're right and you're wrong, or they're right and everyone else is wrong. You know, you want to pay attention to any human that says I'm right and you're wrong. okay? Or I'm right and everyone else is wrong. Or this is the way you have to do it. This is the way you need to do it. This is the way you should be doing it. This is the way. Any human that says these things is trying to manipulate and control the human. Okay? So you want to be real acutely aware of that. This is the only way. This is the way. Everybody else is not doing it the way, right? Follow me, trust me, listen to only me. I have the answers, that kind of stuff. That's manipulation. That's the media. That's the manipulation. They're telling you what to believe. They're telling you what to listen to. They're telling you not to listen to you. Okay? And higher dimensional light beings will always bring you back to you. Always. They will never tell you what to do. Ever. They will never say, I'm right and you're wrong. Never. They will never say this is the only way. Never. Because they understand timelines and the quantum field. And they understand free will. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to leaders or teachers that are berating or tearing down other teachers, other leaders, other people in the community. Pay attention to that. That's not to say that they are in a lower consciousness or they are a darker being. It's just asking you to pay attention. Because what's happening to many humans as they start to wake up is they are falling into another dualistic paradigm, which is false light beings and real light beings. Okay? And there's no such thing as a false light being. No such thing. It doesn't make sense. A false light being, every being is light. Whether it's a fourth dimensional reptilian, it's still light. So to say a false light being, it doesn't make sense from the Galactic Federation of Light's perspective. It's a being that is playing in lower consciousnesses. That's all. And so pay attention to how deep down you go in this paradigm. Is that a false light being? Is that a real light being? It doesn't matter. What matters is what are you paying attention to and what are you playing in? That's what matters, right? Does this feel good or does this not feel good to me? Because if you start trying to navigate who's dark and who's light, they're all light. If you start trying to navigate, is this false and is this true, right? You're going to start to get stuck in that paradigm. You're going to start to try, none of that matters, they're saying. What matters is that you trust your own frequency and light, okay? And that you understand and recognize that there are fourth dimensional beings inside human bodies that have been manipulating and controlling the human collective for thousands of years. And these dark energies or fourth dimensional energies playing in lower states of consciousness are going to get louder and louder and louder as we courageously dismantle them. Okay? And they're going to be seen as the elite. They're going to be seen as the media. They're going to be seen as the all over the world, these very high level, behind the scenes humans that are like puppeteers to strands of thousands of humans below them that are playing out their plan. So those thousands of people below them are not false light beings. They're not dark beings necessarily. They're being controlled and manipulated by the dark beings or the higher or the fourth dimensional beings that are in human body, basically, okay? So they're just playing, they're being manipulated and controlled. So again, it's going to get louder. You're going to get more and more aware of these manipulated humans, okay? Pay attention. The role here is not to dive deep into it. The role here is to hold yourself in those higher states of consciousness, remembering that you are actually alchemizing that dense consciousness inside that human, right? So whatever behavior these dark energies are doing and being, you're alchemizing it. You're dismantling them, basically, and the control and manipulation they've been having. How? By holding higher states of consciousness, by not playing in it, by not continuing to perpetuate it, right? Arguing, fighting them, that kind of thing. So yes, it's a 3D concept. There's no such thing as a false light being, right? But there are light beings in fourth dimensional consciousness or field, fourth dimensional field, inside human bodies, manipulating the human collective. Okay, let's see. I talked about the vaccine. I have understood that there will be a mass awakening event coming in the middle of September. All the deep state government corruption, sex trafficking, China collusion, media controlled by the CIA, misleading the American people. Can you please tell us what you are aware of? There is, this is again, when the human talks about an event, it's happening now. So it's actually right now. It's in your now moment. This is happening. So there isn't going to be one event that's going to happen in some now moment and some date in a calendar. It's happening right now. Don't miss the event. The event is now, they're saying, okay? And it's going to continue. So these things that you are watching in your reality, in your external reality right now, this is what is being dismantled. This is consciousness dismantling or alchemizing. And at the alchemization process, again, is when energy or light that is spinning in a lower frequency is seen, felt, acknowledged from high frequency light, alchemizing it or dismantling it so that it no longer exists. It shifts into high frequency light. Who is the high frequency light? We are. We are the high frequency light. We are alchemizing it by standing in it, looking at it, feeling it, experiencing it, acknowledging it, and by doing and being in higher states of consciousness, not being it, not being that which we are dismantling. And so you're going to see more corruption. You're going to see more dark. You're going to see more evil. You're going to see more censorship. You're going to see more, all of this stuff. You're going to see more of it. Why? Because it is coming up to the surface and it's going to get louder. Why? Because it is being dismantled and it's freaking out. Watch what happens in the next 3 months. You're going to look, it's going to feel like you are watching the Twilight Zone. It's going to get so crazy. People have to start critically thinking and asking questions so that they can step out of the Twilight Zone and watch what's going to unravel. So it's happening now. It's not happening in a couple months. It's not happening in a couple weeks. It's happening right now. This is all unraveling right now. Okay, how do we let go of duality and the good and bad mindset in a world that heavily focuses on good and bad? I'll internally feel neutral and open, but as I see others get riled up, I also feel the need to pick a side. Sometimes feeling neutral and understanding that there is a good and bad feels like I'm ignoring certain issues. Okay, so this is really, really important, okay? This is how the Galactic Federation of Light shows me it. They show it to me in a picture. There are two paths, two roads, okay? And there is the road of like fear, manipulation, control, right? And there is the road of expansion and peace, safety, sovereignty, two roads. It's not so much about the right or wrong road, okay? But there are two distinct roads. One that is in a little bit of a higher frequency and one that is in a lower frequency. So that's the first piece. Holding that instead of saying there is a right way and a wrong way. Now, as a human standing in the middle of both roads, you are going to feel as if one road is right and one road is wrong. Why? Because you're standing in a third dimensional physical field. One path is going to feel right to you, and one path is going to feel wrong to you, depending upon who you are. You can put 1,000,000 humans in the middle of that road, right? With two paths that they get to choose. Half of them are going to choose the right path, half of them are going to choose the left path, right? So right and wrong is just a part of the human experience right now. And trying to make right or wrong not good or not okay is only perpetuating the duality. So what we want to do is recognize, okay, I'm standing in the middle of these two roads. Which road feels good to me? Meaning that my body feels good when I'm standing on that road. So yes, it'll feel like you're picking a side, right? For instance, if you have this strong urge to speak about sex trafficking, right? And it's making you feel like you're expanded, it's making you feel free, it's making you feel sovereign, okay? Then that's the path you're going to walk down, and that's the actions you're going to take. Somebody else can stand in there and say, I don't believe sex trafficking, I don't think it's happening, I think it's all BS, blah, blah, blah. That's the path they're going to take, right? So it's not about, oh, I can't choose sides. It's okay to choose sides. The neutral piece comes when you recognize that this is all part of a third dimensional field. There's nothing wrong with picking sides. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion because it's part of the third dimension. There's nothing wrong with standing in the middle and looking at both options and actually feeling as if there's an option you want to choose. There's nothing wrong with that. That's neutrality. Neutrality is standing and seeing both sides. And you either hold both sides and say, oh, look at both sides. I don't need to stand on either side. That's neutrality. Neutrality also is, I see both sides, I honor both sides, and I'm choosing a side. That's neutrality. Neutrality doesn't mean that you're not going to necessarily hold a side. You're still human. You're still human right now. You're still going to have an opinion, many of us. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to feel like standing up for something. It's okay to feel like fighting against something. That's okay. When you make it wrong or when you make yourself the only right choice, then you're shrouded in duality. So believe it or not, you can have an opinion and still be in neutrality. How? You hold the opinion of others as well. I have an opinion, but my opinion is not the only opinion, and it is not the right opinion. It is just my opinion. That's neutrality. So again, there's this idea as the human starts to wake up and move into these higher states of consciousness that neutrality means that I don't have opinions. Neutrality means that I don't take a side. Neutrality means that I don't choose. Well, what if choosing feels right to you right now because you're still standing in a third dimensional field? All of us are still standing in a third dimensional field. How do I know? Can you unconditionally love somebody that just murdered a child? That's how we know we're still standing in third dimension, because most of us would not be able to unconditionally love somebody that did that, right? Or did something else horrific, or did something else horrific. When you're standing in a fifth dimensional field and standing in and anchored in a 5D consciousness completely, 100%, you will be able to hold all humans unconditionally, and most of us can't do that. Okay, so we're still standing in a third dimensional field, and there is nothing wrong with being in a third dimensional field. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with choosing a side. There's nothing wrong with opinions. There's nothing wrong with beliefs. There's nothing wrong with your truth. Neutrality is holding yours and everyone else's. That's the key to neutrality in a third dimensional field. Starting to practice that. I'm right and you're right. That's neutrality. And you can also hold the neutrality of I'm not choosing either side. That's neutrality. Okay? All right. Let's see. Hi, Lori. Some days I'm really into my spiritual journey, meditating, reading, also using energy healing meditations, but then I get drawn back into 3D problems and emotions. and feel like I'm doing something wrong in terms of ascension. Is this normal? Yeah, it's ascension. It's your body moving from one frequency to another frequency over and over again throughout your day. And I've talked about this in many different videos, but you're going to find yourself, especially right now as we're alchemizing super dense consciousness in the external, you're going to find yourself in days where you are really, really aligned and connected. And you will find yourself in days where you are really, really dense and disconnected. And this is part of it. And the key to moving through this is to not judge, to not beat yourself up, right? To hold yourself in compassion, to remember what's happening. There's nothing wrong with going from one state to another state, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just part of the process. What you'll start to find happening is that you'll stay in the higher states for longer periods of time eventually. But there's nothing wrong with you when you start moving into the lower states. Nothing. It's part of the alchemization process. It's part of us alchemizing this massively intense, dense physicality. What we are alchemizing right now, what we are shifting, is very, very dense. And we have to feel it to alchemize it. We have to feel it. Okay? Next question. Is there a threat upon us on the 5G? I'm terrified, and a lot of others are too. Okay, so I talked about this in the beginning. I'll briefly talk about it right now. The impact that 5G towers are going to do on the human body is very, very slim compared to what it could have done, because there are higher dimensional beings, whether you believe this or not, there are higher dimensional beings that are actually decreasing the impact that these 5G towers are going to do on the human. They are not and will not and do not have the destructive powers that the human storyline or narrative is playing out right now. Okay, and so it's a choice of believing this or believing the intense fear-based storylines, and it's totally okay either path you take. It's totally okay. Many humans won't be able to hold the idea that there are these higher dimensional beings that are actually reducing the impact of the 5G towers. Okay, but I can tell you that they are, and the intensity or the impact that these 5G towers actually have on the human is all about belief. Because they actually could have a much worse impact than they're actually having. They are designed to have a much more impactful, negative impact on the human body than what they're actually having right now. So what are you believing? It's not your fault. You're believing what the media is telling you, which is okay. But we're here to tell you a different story. We're here to tell you a different narrative, which is don't believe those fear-based narratives that are holding you in fear. We understand. We completely understand. It's the only narrative you're being fed. But we want to remind you that it is not even close to the intensity that they're telling you. We've subdued or simmered down the impact that the 5G towers could have had on the human. And not only are we doing it, but you're doing it by holding higher frequencies. The light that is coming from your body that you don't see is reducing the impact of those 5G towers, whether you understand that and believe that or not. And the more humans that wake up and hold these higher states of consciousness are emanating out a frequency from their body that is in a higher frequency, that is literally dismantling the 5G towers' ability to impact the human body. This is all energy. It's an energetic war out there, okay? And you are part of it. And your weapon is higher states of consciousness. And if you play in the fear paradigm, then you are allowing the fear to dismantle your weaponry, which is your light. So you want to stay in the higher states. You want to say that's a narrative. That is a fear-based narrative. The 5G towers and what they're doing to the human body is a third-dimensional fear-based narrative that is being thrown at me to digest. I am a higher state. I'm a higher consciousness being. I understand that what I'm doing right now is holding higher states of consciousness, which emanates out from my body. And believe it or not, that energetic frequency is dismantling these third dimensional fear-based paradigms and storylines and narratives that are supposedly destroying my physical body. This is how powerful you are. You just don't remember and realize. So start to remember this. What are the fear-based, and this includes vaccines. It's the same thing. But this is something that we have to practice. This is something we have to hold over and over and over again. This is a very challenging thing to hold. And the Galactic Federation of Light understands this, but they're going to continue to tell it to you because it's truth. For them, they're just giving you a perspective. But there are many truths that you get to hold, and you always get to choose your truth. And no truth is wrong. No truth is wrong. But they're trying to share another perspective to remind us of what's going on. Okay? So remember that. Your body is emanating out of frequency. We, as light beings, light workers, light walkers, light way showers, right? Star seeds, we're here to hold these higher frequencies by being higher states of consciousness. And that is making a massive impact on the paradigms that are playing out right now. And it won't make sense to us because we can't see it. It's all energy. Okay. A lot of you, this question came in, and I'm gonna. It's a very long question, but basically what she was saying is, what she asked is, she's asking about taking action right now. She says, I personally have signs and messages from my guides and my higher self letting me know that all is well. And that makes it easier to trust my intuition. But these days, when I feel like it's time to take action on something, I just don't feel like I know exactly what I need to be taking action on. Many of us are in this stage. There's this feeling of, I think I need to go somewhere. I think I need to prepare for something. I think I need to move. I think I need to be able to move soon. There's something coming. I'm preparing for something. That frequency and energy that you're experiencing is exactly what's happening. You are being prepared for what is coming. And again, the Galactic Federation of Light's not going to tell you what's coming. But there is more and more that is going to be unraveled. And we, as light workers, way showers, and starseeds, need to be ready to be able to serve in whatever way you are designed to serve. And this is going to be this is years. This is not in the next 6 months. This is in the next 3, 4, 5 years, right? This is the beginning of the dismantling. This is the beginning of it. And so what you're feeling is the energetic knowingness that you're here to do something, that you're here to serve, that you're here to assist in this. And that feeling of not knowing what it is yet is because it's not time. And so it's a very uncomfortable feeling because you're like, shoot, I feel like there's something I'm here to do. I feel like I'm supposed to be preparing for something. I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be like a nomad, right? That's because it's coming. It's just not in your now. And so there's that feeling also of all is well. I'm actually okay. In all of this chaos, everything is okay. I'm actually safe. I feel okay about all this because you are. And because you need to be able to hold that in the midst of the chaos. Because most likely you're going to be standing in that chaos as you serve in whatever capacity that you're going to be serving. Many of us, hundreds of thousands of us, are going to be light warriors walking into the massive chaos that's unraveling, not in a negative way, not in a positive way, just unraveling. And we're going to stand in the middle of it and assist humans in moving through it. And so if you're feeling that feeling of like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm preparing for something, like I'm getting ready to do something or move or whatever that is. It's coming. So just trust that, okay? So, yeah. You want to know more, you want to know more, you want to know more. Just stay present, okay? Just stay present. Presence, 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 presence. Okay, let's do 1 or 2 more. It's already at an hour mark, so I'm gonna just let's see what else could I do. Let's do 1 more question. Okay. How can you help give us some tips on how to raise the vibration of my body. So the Galactic Federation of Light never actually they never actually talk about raising the vibration of our physical bodies, because our bodies are always raising its frequencies. It's a natural process. So they never give me tips on like how to raise your vibration, because that is the ego trying to control the ascension process. What they give us tips on, or they give me tips on, is how to move through the uncomfortable, how to move through the moments when you're not feeling yourself in a high frequency or in a high vibration. Okay, that's the key. That's what's important, because you're always holding higher frequencies. It's not a matter of how do I raise my vibration. Your vibration is already raised. Your body's already holding higher frequencies. What you really are asking when you ask that question is, how do I get through the moments when I'm not feeling in a high vibration? That's really the question. Okay? Because if you try to get out of that which you're in, you will only perpetuate that which you're in. The resistance to what you're in perpetuates what you're in. So when people are trying to move themselves and raise their vibration, they're doing it because they don't like the vibration they're in. And all that's going to do is perhaps pull them out of the vibration they don't like to be in, but they will find themselves back in the vibration they don't like to be in. And then they're going to ask the question again, how do I raise my vibration? So again, this isn't about how to raise your vibration. It's how to be in the vibration you don't like to be in. And the key to that is surrendering into it. Allowing that vibration to be okay, because every vibration is always shifting in your body. If you resist the vibration you're feeling or the frequency you're feeling, you'll perpetuate it. And then you'll get frustrated, and then you'll think there's something you're doing wrong. And then you'll try to fix it, right? And you'll beat yourself up. So the first piece is, oh, I'm in a frequency right now that I don't like at all. It feels very uncomfortable. Okay, great. Honor that. The second piece is, so you're acknowledging where you are. You're feeling it. Feel it, acknowledge it. Okay, I don't like it. Step two is you're going to surrender into it. That's it. You are not the frequency that you're feeling. It's just a frequency in your body. And that frequency is allowing you to feel specific energies, specific emotions and thoughts and behaviors. It may feel super dense. It's not comfortable, right? Which is why you want to raise your frequency. The key is to not try to raise anything. The key is to allow that frequency to move through. So you acknowledge where you are. Oh, this doesn't feel good. And then you surrender into it by just feeling it. Literally dropping and just being in it. Third, you have compassion for yourself while you're in it and feeling it. Have compassion. And fourth, you remember what's actually happening. Your body is in a frequency that is lower than what you would like it to be in, but it's only lower for a now moment, and it will eventually shift. This is energy shifting in my body. It doesn't stay stagnant. This is energy shifting in my body. It doesn't stay stagnant. Whatever I'm feeling in this now will shift. If I try to raise my vibration into another frequency, I am trying to control the frequency of my body. When all I'm designed to do is allow my body to move into higher states of consciousness. And the way it does that is it allows me to feel the denser consciousnesses every once in a while, which I am alchemizing and clearing out of my body. And the only way to alchemize or shift into higher states of consciousness is to feel the lower states. And if I don't allow myself to feel the lower states, then the alchemization process is going to take a lot longer. So this isn't about how do I raise my vibration. This is about staying present with whatever frequency you are feeling in every now moment. Every frequency that you're feeling in every now moment, and allowing it to be okay. That is how you alchemize and shift into higher states of consciousness in the most easy and graceful way without trying to control anything. When you are holding a higher frequency, you're naturally going to want to meditate perhaps. You're going to want to eat and drink really good fruit juices and green juices. You're going to want to breathe fresh air and go outside, right? When you're experiencing a lower frequency, you're not going to want to do any of that. And if you try to force yourself to do those things, you're denying a frequency that just needs to be alchemized and felt in your body. That's it. There is nothing wrong with lower frequencies and feeling them if you understand the process of alchemization and ascension, which is, one more time, because we can't say it enough, alchemizing, which is shifting lower frequencies, lower energies, lower vibrations into higher frequencies, higher vibrations, by seeing the lower, feeling the lower, honoring the lower, which allows the lower frequencies to shift into the higher frequency. You're always in higher frequencies, always. And so you looking at, feeling, honoring, and allowing the lower frequencies as a higher frequency will allow that lower frequency to shift or alchemize. You're shining light on it because you are already holding higher frequencies. It doesn't matter what you're currently feeling if it's a lower frequency. You are holding higher frequencies. You're a high frequency being. Your body is high frequency right now. Okay? So when you feel the density, look at it, honor it, feel it. Don't try to change it because it will change on its own through the alchemization process. It'll start to dissolve. The next thing you know, a day or two later, you're feeling different. Okay? So practice. Practice, practice, practice. All right, everybody. That's it. I love you. I hope this was useful. I hope you could take some nuggets away from this. I love you all so much. This is such a powerful time that we are in. And we're all doing the best we can. We are learning how to be in higher states of consciousness together in this massive divide. Okay, so be gentle with yourselves. Try to be gentle with other humans. It's not easy right now. I also want to let you know that I have a really beautiful online community on Patreon. And we are continuing to grow, and it is a beautiful place to come together to receive guidance and support and love as you navigate your nows. We're all navigating this together in this community. You feel like you're with other like-minded souls. I show up every week live. I provide guided journeys, Q&As, I provide 3 free 30-minute sessions to the community. There's so much that is in that community. And there's an additional forum where everyone connects in between the live events. It just feels so good to connect every week and to show up with everybody around the world and to recognize that we're not doing this alone, that we're all going through this together. Many of us experiencing the same things, and to be able to have a community where you are feeling seen and heard and honored and loved is huge right now. It's huge. And of course, there's all these higher dimensional beings that show up with us as well. So the link is down below if you're interested. It's through Patreon. It's $23 a month, subscription-based service. You can opt out whenever you want. I'd love, love, love to have you there with us. Our next live is on Wednesday, the 26th, I think. And it's a Q&A just like this, but it's live, and I answer your questions live, and I answer many more questions than this. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for all the love you have given me in the last couple of weeks. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope this Q&A was useful. Mwah.